Are you thinking about migrating or just curious about what it's really like to move halfway across the world? Well, this is our story of leaving the UK for Australia. People have asked us for the lessons we learned, and trust us, we made some big mistakes, including one that almost stopped us from being let into Australia altogether. In this video, we'll share what we'd do differently if we had the chance to do all again.
Yeah, we didn't exactly take the easy route to Australia, and not many people chose the way we did it. Bonnie's from the northeast of Scotland, and I'm from the southeast of England, and we actually met in Durham, which happens to be exactly halfway between our hometowns.
As we lived and worked in County Durham, we had both already flown the nest, and family gatherings were few and far between. This made our decision to go to Australia slightly easier, as we did not see our families all that often. At the time, we both had good lives in the UK. I was a residential lettings agent, and Lewis was a design engineer at Black & Decker. We each owned flats, but something always drew me to Australia, and Lewis too had been seriously thinking about it, so we decided to take the leap.
So we went ahead and hired a migration agent, applying for a skilled migration visa since engineering was on Australia's occupation in demand list at the time. It took 2 years to go through the process, and we didn't tell many people, just in case things didn't work out.
Once we got our visas, we had exactly 1 year to enter the country. It was a mad rush to sort out our lives. Selling my flat at a loss was tough, but we also had to decide, do we sell everything or ship it? Surprisingly, shipping was the cheaper option, and we couldn't leave without my beautiful cat Sam, who came along for the adventure.
So we initially planned to settle in Melbourne, where most of the engineering jobs seem to be. But before booking flights, a friend suggested we fly into Sydney for holiday first. A week before we left, I thought, why not? So I sent my CV to a Sydney recruiter and ended up with a meeting set for when we arrived.
The days before we left the UK were very chaotic. We packed our things to join us in Australia and sold Lewis's car just hours before leaving to a guy who was in such a rush he didn't even test drive it or haggled, and he paid cash. We said goodbye to a cold grey Manchester, but at the airport we had a heart-stopping moment. The check-in agent took ages to check our documents, and as it turned out, we'd miscalculated the time difference. Australia was a day ahead of the UK, so we had only a few hours before our entry visa would expire.
But luckily there were no flight delays, so we landed in Sydney just 6 hours before the deadline. The customs agent laughed and said, "You just made it, folks. Welcome to Australia." Lesson number 1, always give yourself extra time when migrating.
Sydney was love at first sight. The blue skies and bright sun were everything I imagined. But before we could fully relax, Lewis got a message from the Durham police about an urgent issue.
Well, it turned out the car I'd sold just days before was involved in a bank ATM ram raid in Newcastle. No wonder the guy didn't want to test drive it. As the registration transfer hadn't gone through and the car wasn't reported stolen, I was being implicated in a bank robbery. I explained the registration and transfer documents were in the post and we were now living in Australia. The police were very understanding and it was all quickly cleared up over the phone, and they wished us luck in Australia.
After a week of interviews in Sydney, we drove down to Melbourne where we thought we would settle. But on the way there, Lewis got a phone call from the Sydney recruitment agent offering him a job with ResMed. So just after one night to see and cuddle Sam in Melbourne, we drove all the way back to Sydney.
We soon rented a unit, and as our things were still floating on the ocean, we bought an airbed, some plastic chairs, and used a cardboard box for a table. Sam had to be flown interstate to Sydney, and the very helpful shipping company rerouted our things from Melbourne, which was yet more expense we hadn't allowed for. It was definitely not how we pictured things going, but it all worked out.
In hindsight, we should have holidayed in Australia first before making such a huge decision. Researching where we wanted to live and the job market. Also, we have come to learn that some companies in Australia sponsor people from overseas to work for them, so this may have been a much easier and less expensive option.
And I also think in hindsight, we should have held on to our flats in the UK instead of selling them at a loss. The property market has gone up since then, and we may have missed out. Renting them out may have been a better long-term financial move.
We took the hard route, that's for sure. It was expensive, stressful, and filled with last minute panics. But somehow it all worked out. Sydney has been amazing for us, but if we could do it all again, we'd plan things totally differently.
We hope you enjoyed our story and our hiccups gave you a laugh. If you're thinking about migrating, definitely take your time, do your research, and don't cut it so close like we did.
We hope you have enjoyed watching our video, and if you have, then please give us a thumbs up, and we look forward to viewing your comments. We have got more videos about life in Australia and migrating from the UK, so please subscribe as we'd love to have you along for the ride. Thank you for watching. Lewis and Bonnie's Australia.